to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant.
Judgment, Alston.
Chloe, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Judgment, Alston.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, Bob. I love it when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative, and thank you all so much for being here tonight. I see Lori. Good to see you, Lori. I saw Ann Reynolds, Mama, Town Chat Cafe, Adam Forever 21. I saw Hey Jude, Megan Els. I saw Lil Miss Sharon, Show Poodles, Mally Cat, Meow, Ann Brock, Detroit Rock City. I saw Trishy. I also saw TC. Thank you all so much for being here. And I hope, hey Robini, and I hope you, and Connie S. Good to see you, Connie S. I hope you all had a wonderful Mother's Day. I told you all that I was going through, well, I'm not going through it particularly, obviously, but my friend's granddaughter she was really, really sick, and they didn't know what was wrong with her. I used to babysit for her, and she was sick quite frequently when I would take care of her. And it's just not gotten any better. And so they moved her to the oncology ward, and they think that she might have cancer. So um, it's just been a rough couple of days, and it's just like not knowing. She's going to get a PET scan, so I think she's in good hands. But just please pray for her because it's really, really a bad situation. She's only 2 years old, and it's just, oh gosh, guys, I don't know. I freaking hate cancer. I don't know about you guys. I'm sure nobody out there particularly likes it. But for a little one, it's just hard to believe that she's going to have all these tests done. And she's already done an MRI. So there's been a few things that they have done to kind of rule some things out. But just say prayers for her, please, please, please. She's such a sweet, happy little girl. I got a picture of her smiling in a wagon today as they were going up to, at the Children's Hospital, they have an area on the rooftop where it's like a garden. So they took her up there. Oh my goodness, Ann Brock. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm sorry, guys, if I dropped that freaking link. I'm so sorry. I'm a hot mess tonight. But we're going to talk about a lot of true crime stuff tonight. But I kind of wanted to let you guys know why I wasn't here on Mother's Day because I really missed you guys. And, I love being here with all of you so much that it's just when I can't be here, I always get bummed out. So, but yeah. It's just been hard. Like I said, my family in Missouri is not blood family, but they are family to me. And they've always been there for me, and I've always tried to be there for them. So, sorry guys, I'm a little bit nervous tonight. But tonight I wanted to talk about some comparisons. Someone emailed me and asked me to do a comparison with Elizabeth Smart's family versus Sebastian's family, right? And kind of how everybody reacted, right? So I brought in a couple of older interviews that are kind of maybe not so studied, unless the Smiley clips, because I think Smiley Stories has been covered a lot. But I wanted to kind of show the differences and bring up some hopefully interesting points. But I wanted to honor that too, because I love when you guys give me ideas. Of course, Sebastian's case is going on 1.5 years now, and we still don't have answers. And so I thought it'd be really interesting and a great idea to bring this all in and just kind of see what we can find out. You guys are awesome, always having great. Thank you, Anne. Thank you guys. You guys are the best. But I know you guys always have like the best ideas that come in, right? And so, yeah, Adam Forever 21, that's what they might be looking at. But right now she's at Children's Hospital, kind of getting the proper testing and things like that. So, but thank you, Adam Forever 21. Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Connie S. Oh, I missed you too, Connie S. Trishy, I missed you too. Thank you. Hey, Jude. Oh, I love your cat. I love your cat. Hey, Jude. I love those shades. I want to find some John Lennon shades, right? What happened to those circular ones? I need to find me a pair of those. So I can dress like your avatar. Hey, Lisa Opinion. Good to see you. Good to see you, honey. Thanks for being here. Hey, Couponing. Good to see you, Super Sleuth. Good to see you. Yeah, known innocent parents, right, Trishy? That's what I was thinking too. And I was like, especially because we had Elizabeth Smart on the panel, and of course, for America's Most Wanted. And of course, I mean, when you hear her story, I did take a lot of her story out and left it just kind of because I'd like to do a part 2 as well, where I'll, have her tell exactly what happened, but it kind of tells like her point of view up until it's her sister, right? Because we have an eyewitness in this case, which we don't have in Sebastian's case, unless you count like the thud that Katie heard, which is not really eyewitness, right? That's the last known thing we know about what happened with Sebastian, was that thud or the noise in his room. But I thought it'd be interesting. I did, Trishy. I thought it'd be very interesting, and I thought you guys would enjoy it. Something different. I don't have any updates on, the Virginia sighting up in Bristol, Virginia. I know that there's family of the Proud Feet that live up there, but I don't think that it has any connection. I did try to look into it though, and thank you whoever sent me some information there, because trying to put that all into perspective. And then another thing too, with the 2 little ones who are missing, Lily and Jack from Nova Scotia, Canada. I haven't heard any updates, and I'm a little bit hesitant to continue to cover the story when there's not a whole lot coming out in terms of facts. So as soon as I can get, maybe a good, show together for that, we'll do an update show on Lily and Jack. But we haven't forgot about Lily and Jack, of course. I just don't like running with the rumor mill, because especially like how we saw in, Summer's case, Sebastian's case, I just don't want to do that here. I think it doesn't help matters. I think it makes it worse. Now, in the event that, the stepdad comes out, or the mom decides to come out and act a fool on the internet, then it's going to be, obviously we'll cover it. Or if there's any new updates, then we will cover it. But other than that, I'm praying that Lily and Jack are found soon, and that we can bring justice where it's deserved, and just really hoping for the best. They're just so little. Hey, Anna Marie. They're just so little, guys, and I don't know. It's sad. But we'll look for updates. But again, I don't like the timeline, and I'll just say I don't like the timeline. I'm not sure who had involvement. There's also a brother involved. We know that. Thank you, Lori, for the hearts. And so there's that in that case. But let's watch our first clip, right? We're going to watch a little bit about Elizabeth Smart's case. And then we're going to pull in some interviews as we go. So here we go.
The night.
Okay, guys. So she was taken by knife point, right, out of her bedroom. And, we have a couple of different elements here that we didn't have in Sebastian's case, right? So June 5th, 2002, Elizabeth Smart is taken from her bedroom at knife point. And before that, her grandfather had a funeral a day before, right? So June 4th and 2022. And of course, the family's preoccupied with that. It's a mysterious bedroom kidnapping. She's 14 years old. So like Larry King, Connie Chung, everyone covered Elizabeth Smart. And, we have this kidnapping that occurred at the end of school. There was an awards night. So, mom burnt part of the dinner, which was the potatoes. She cranks the window open, and she left it open, right? Because again, they're preoccupied. They just went to a funeral for grandpa, dad, right? And everyone's distraught. And so when they get home, they're probably ready to just all crash out, right? It's been a long day. Nothing has gone as planned. And, mom forgets to close the window. So we know that there's an open window in this case. But in Sebastian's case, we don't have that, because they're saying that there was no window that is opened. And I found that clip that when they told Smiley that, and they decide to go to bed. So, Elizabeth's reading with her sister, right? They're reading kind of a fairy tale before bed, very typical young girls, right? Just kind of reading before bed and, after a long day. Aw, Meg. Oh yeah, and it did. It was figured out pretty quick. The person who took Elizabeth, he really was very sloppy and, took her out into the public after a while. He got really bold and brazen after a while and took her out. Um, you know, Thank you, Lori. Thank you. Um, into the community and things like that. But she was so scared and she was so frightened by this guy that he was going to hurt her. And we'll even learn further that he, threatens to hurt her family and things like that. So thank you, Anne Brock. I am too. I'm hoping and praying all the kids missing will be found soon. Yeah, we have a lot of them out there. In Little Summer, she's going to be 4 years, June 15th. So, yeah. Yeah, it was, I forgot that, Robini. I did. I forgot about that being the night before was her grandpa's funeral. And, and the end of the school year can be so crazy. And, especially with the awards programs and different things. And, she was supposed to play her harp. And so they were just preoccupied, and that can be a big factor in kind of what happened, right? And that's why it was so important, in my opinion, and I think a lot of you might agree that, that's why we were trying to find out information from Katie, because she was the last one with Sebastian. So the more information kind of, even about the general day in question, is important the days before that, because again, it's a stressful time on the family, and it was where their guard was let down, right? They're vulnerable. They just had a loss. And so I think it's important to look at those factors. Um, yes, she is a survivor, Adam Forever 21. She is definitely a survivor. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we highlighted that. And I thought that that was beautiful in the beginning, her saying, that, everybody has stuff, right? Everybody has had trauma. If you live on the planet long enough, I'm under, the impression that you will most definitely go through traumatic experiences, right? And everybody does, but it doesn't, well, we say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, or, when you get through something, you're a survivor. And I think that what Elizabeth went through was absolutely horrific. I mean, I even said the other day how, the monsters that are human that walk among us are most definitely inspiration for adaptations of monsters that we see in the horror movies. It's quite scary, but I do believe that to be true. I'm more afraid of, humans walking the planet that are just absolutely unhinged and crazy, than I am of, like a ghost or something like that, because obviously that's where the fear comes from, is from humanity and the lack thereof, or the absolute, psychopathy of another human who, either they can't control themselves or what have you, but they will go in and steal a child from the bedroom, things like that. So, yeah, I forgot about that too, Meg. Yeah, and I heard that too, Robini. Sweetie Pilo said they were open according to the neighbor. And we were talking about that. Wasn't it a kitchen window too? So Katie says they were all locked, but I pulled the clip too. While Katie and Chris were both kind of talking, so we'll hear it. Meg says, I left my DNA in case I ever go missing unwillingly so Lady can find me. I will come find you, Meg. Oh my goodness, don't say that though. Oh my goodness, that'd be the worst. Hey Jude, I'm taking you with me. Trisha, you too. We're going. Robini, Lori, everybody in chat tonight. Thanks, Anne. That's so sweet of you. Thanks for the green hearts. Nightmare criminals, in my opinion. Yes. I mean, could you imagine? Like, I can't imagine being taken from my bed and ever feeling safe there again. Like that, it doesn't matter like what house you're in, I'm sure, and for her sister as well, right? Because her sister is sitting here watching everything. And we're gonna hear from her perspective too. And they show a picture when she was just little. Hey, Napa Nudge Father, good to see you. Thank you for the green hearts. It's crazy like seeing this little person and thinking, oh my goodness, you were sitting there probably with your covers up, or maybe not even, maybe she had him up to here trying not to say anything, because gosh, if he would have seen her looking, or getting an ID on him. Hey, Captain Jules, good to see you. And so, it's just crazy. It's just so crazy. K9 Gator and I will find y'all. Thank you. There we go. Thank you, Captain Jules. I'm glad you came to the rescue, because I was like, oh my goodness. Oh yes, that's another one too, Robini. That's a great point. Read Casey Lee Dugar's story. Wow, that poor girl is a survivor too. Yes, and her captor actually, wasn't there two babies involved that she, because of that happened because they raped her. And yeah, JC Lee Dugard. Yes. Yeah, and she's a total survivor. And and what Elizabeth was saying, that it doesn't define who you are, and she's really shown us that, right? She's on America's Most Wanted. She's spreading awareness. She's always there advocating, and she's just, does speeches. And so it's fantastic to watch. And, I was looking into, of course, her case, and most recently, this creep lady who was the wife of the man that took her and kidnapped her. So, she was an accomplice of the kidnapping. But she was waiting at the camp there when he arrived with Elizabeth. And the lady gave her a really creepy hug, and it was just disgusting. Hey, VW Holla Girl, good to see you. And it was just like, this lady's allowing for this to happen, right? She's facilitating this, and she is essentially aiding in all of this terror that is, and humiliation and just torture that poor little Elizabeth at 14 had to endure. And just scaring the living crap out of her. Let's just be honest, especially because she was said to have been, sheltered in a good family, right, where she wasn't aware of, many of the evils and things in the world. Hey, Astrology for Mystics with Jen, good to see you. Thanks for being here. She says number 35 up in the house. All right. Thanks, Jen. But so just really a harrowing story, right? And then this lady was due out, and then they let her out for a little while, right? Just recently. I think this was like 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Not 100%, but I was reading through some articles, and she ended up going right back to where she belonged to begin with. I don't know why they let these fuckers out. I have no regard for that type of a person that would do something like that. To go with their husband and terrorize a little girl is beyond sick, in my opinion. But she's back where she belongs, thank God. But they did let her out. So, there's Elizabeth having to be terrorized again, so she just keeps on surviving, right? Hell, Beyonce, holla, you know what I mean? So she just keeps on going. Hey, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom, good to see you. Did you see my post? Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, happy hummus day. I saw that, you guys, and I was like, oh, I have to post this, Happy hummus day. I love hummus. It's like one of my favorite things. I always have some. I got some with some chimichurri, and it was really, really good. Lady, have you ever read Why Gary Why? No, I have not. I'm gonna have to write that down. Why Gary Why? I'll say read. KP Joel. I think I'm buffering. Oh, okay, now I'm back. Sorry, guys. Hummus is life, says Detroit Rock City. I love hummus. It's so good. Uh, Thank you, Hey Jude, for dropping Jules's link. Thank you for the green hearts couponing, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Aw. Aw, thank you. Thank you so much, Astrology for Mystics with Jen. She says, thank you so much for keeping Sebastian out in the public eye. Of course, of course, of course. Oh yeah, I can't say it's even my pleasure, but I'm glad to do it, you know? I feel like we have to. It's important. And I love you for doing that too, Jen. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yes, yes. It's so good, you know, Detroit. It's really healthy. Like it's a healthy. I think that's what my post said. It was like it's a healthy snack. And then I had a picture of a sloth, and that lady doing the chef kiss. Napper Father, I'm glad you tapped your screen. I think it was you that got me back if no one else did it. That's funny. I know. I don't know what's going on. I looked, my internet's at 5G, so it's probably, I don't know what's going on. Hummus overload. Hummus is the bomb, said Hey Jude. We love hummus in here. I know some people are like, what is that? And it's like, oh, it's just chickpeas. Ooh, homemade ramen. That sounds really good. Oh gosh. I love going and getting ramen. I have to find some good spots around here. Hey, Brenda Sue. Good to see you. Oh, good to see you, Brenda Sue. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, is it storming, Rob? You know, it rained all day yesterday. It was like we haven't had rain in forever, and then all of a sudden it just poured down rain. So it was kind of nice because we needed it a little bit. But oh, Napanoch Father said, so I saw a video today, I believe, of Pat Brown talking about supposedly Chris didn't leave that day until 9 o'clock at night to go to Memphis. I wonder if this is true. You know, I remember Pat doing that video, and she's super smart, right? And she's like a profiler, I believe. So, you know, and she's not the only one that's really said that they thought Chris was in the area on, you know, that he left work. Well, Silver's on the scene pretty much confirmed that from his research, you know, Chris left on Thursday night, then he got, you know, to Hendersonville and he stayed the weekend, and then he left at some time Sunday, you know, getting back to work. But they also confirmed that he wasn't in the crane at 6:30 a.m. like he said he was. So I wouldn't doubt it, you know, and if we knew that piece, we could really narrow a timeline down too, right? But it would also kind of help his alibi a little bit for not being around when the 3 a.m. lights happened, the flashlight video, so to speak. But you know, I'll have to look into that too, Pat Brown, because I remember she's really good, and I remember her saying something about that Napanoch Father. So yeah, and I'm sure you guys will remember in the chat. Hey, Cooper, good to see you. Hey, Sasha, good to see you, girl. Oh, Lori, you have to try hummus, but you have to get like it's like called like Sabre or something. Sabre. I like that one more than like the Walmart Market brand is kind of not my favorite one. I haven't tried I don't like it as much as the other brand. I'll just say that. Um, Now, Benoit's father says, because if it is, I'd like to believe there's a strong possibility that Sebastian's body could be anywhere from his house to wherever that construction site was that he was working at. Yeah, and I think that that's a really strong possibility as well. Um, Mainly kind of focused in on the Mississippi River. If I was to think that it's somewhere along those lines, because I was talking, even with one of my friends, and we were kind of thinking the same way you're thinking it, if that's the case, then it would be somewhere on the way back to Memphis, right? Yeah, absolutely not Benoit's father. I'm on the same page as you for sure. Oh, and Jules says I can't tag because I'm on my phone, but I'm putting the finishing touches on Canine Ara's latest video. We did a cadaver to find inside concrete to prove that CP was about concrete. What CP said about concrete is wrong. Oh, that's going to be really cool, Jules. I need to check that out. I need to check that out. That is so cool that Ara is going to debunk something like that. That is neat. I think that's so smart. That is really cool. Yeah, just like everything, right, is a theory. I agree. I agree. And, just kind of going over some of these interviews, it kind of makes it really a solid point that, in one case we have a kidnapping, in the other case it's foul play, in my opinion. Yeah, hell yeah, Trishy. um Ah, Astrology for Mystics with Jen says, "You're welcome. Your time is energy and it matters." Ah, thanks, Jen. Yeah, that is so sweet. We all have a duty to support just causes. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers cannot get lost in the madness of time. That's right. Ugh. That's how I feel too, Jen. Ugh, really. I mean, ugh. Oh man, I feel that too, and I think it's important to examine these. Brenda Sue, it's important to examine these interviews, right, and kind of look at what we're seeing in one case and what we're seeing in the other case, because a lot of times we will find similarities, differences. Maybe we might think differently after we see it. You just never know. I think it's interesting. Um, Oh my goodness. Oh geez, Jules. That guy is a crazy MF, you know. I'm afraid he might tap into my live stream or something. I'm glad you guys are out there protecting us. Thank you so, so, so much. Um, Cooper says, "Lady, I've been sick since right before Christmas. I'm going now for IV every week because I'm severely dehydrated. Oh my goodness. Now today I'm getting a fever and a cough. Please pray for me." I will, Cooper. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry to hear that, honey. Oh, we'll be praying for you, and you could count on our chat too. We pray. We're prayers over here. Hey, Hope Floats, prayer warriors, I guess, right? Ah. Oh, garlic hummus. Oh, Amazon Fresh. Okay, I'm gonna try that. Hey, Jude. I'm always down to try new hummus, but I found that I don't like the market stuff because I grabbed that one time and it was not. Um, oh, Cooper, my goodness. You're so welcome, honey. Oh my goodness. Thanks, Detroit. Thank you guys for your well wishes. Oh my goodness. And K9 Captain Joel says the construction site is exactly why we did the cadaver canine video. We had a cadaver print inside concrete, and the canine R still found it. Wow, that is so amazing. Like, gosh, they're sniffers. Um, I'll have to email you, Jules, about that. I'd like to show those. and talk about that, because that is so neat. And then you could give us insight too. That is really, really cool. If you don't mind, because that would be awesome. I'm really interested in that because I think it's important. And, I've heard of cadaver dogs, finding like ancient bones, that, I mean, obviously it was on like a controlled, search and things like that. But I think it's awesome. And then I've heard like underwater searches and just really, you know. Oh, thank you, Brenda Sue. Yeah, it is my it's my best good friend. It's my best good friend, and his wife and their granddaughter. You know, um, but just a really good family, just really good people. And I mean, she's just only a little 2-year old. And Cooper, the last sighting of Sebastian, I did a little bit of a in the beginning. So, but basically, we're not sure. I just wish people would. And I know it's maybe something that people get excited, they don't think about it, and then all of a sudden, um, it's too late. But I really wish that somebody would have maybe called and said, hey, there's a sighting of Sebastian, but it was, kind of a little bit too late. I haven't heard anything back about it just yet. But yeah, that's gonna be so awesome, huh, Robbie Beanie? I think so too. I think so too. And Jules says we did a canine gator and Sebastian's medicine video too. I just have been busy with army stuff and haven't been able to update lately. Oh gosh, that is so cool, Jules. And see, that's another really important aspect of the case too. Absolutely. Yeah, that is so cool. I cannot wait for that. Hey, Robin. Thank you. Thanks. Hey, Jude. Sasha says, I think law enforcement is actually quite impressed and really knows how much we care and how hard we have worked and we have risked our lives. These people are dangerous. Sebastian's gone. He's gone. Oh, Sasha, I know. I share that sentiment often, and I do believe that. I do believe law enforcement knows how much we care, the public. I think, and I will say that, the last time Craddock made a statement, he mentioned that to Dateline, the last time he gave them a statement in the email, that he's working hard for us as the public, and I mean, obviously he has a duty in Tennessee, not really like federally for all of us that live in different states and, around the world. But I think that he feels that same sort of, kind of duty that we do, that it's so important that Sebastian's found. And I know it gets so frustrating. I'm telling you. Ugh. Jewel says, Jen, that's interesting because before we had our briefing today, I kept finding videos in my feed on them and I never searched that county. So that's interesting. Yeah. And see, things are just crazy in the world, it seems like, And Jewel says, if lady, if he does tap into your stream, just start talking about Chicago Bulls. Apparently he loves American basketball. That's hilarious. So I wonder if he knows who like Dennis Rodman is, or that's hilarious. I could talk basketball. I could do that, especially the Bulls. Like maybe not like present day, but I know. Well, I think there's a couple of points I'm going to bring up, Cooper, and I appreciate what you're asking. I think, well, I don't want to spoil the rest of the, some of the live that we have coming up, but we're definitely going to touch on that because I understand that too. And, I think that some of it was just a little bit in the beginning, operating under the assumption that Sebastian walked off is a little bit of a difference and kind of a contrast that we're going to go over. But again, not throwing shade because there's nothing we can do about it now. you know what I'm saying? There's nothing we can do about it now. But here we go. I'm going to go ahead and play this next clip for us. And this is going to be Smiley Stories where they're talking about, well, I'll just let you watch.
The night, Sunday night, when you said there was a noise, what type of noise do you think that was that you heard?
I'm not honestly sure. It sounded like he was messing with stuff in his room, which was not uncommon, which is why I said, hey, I don't know what you're doing in there, but you're supposed to go to sleep.
Okay. So you didn't check on him at that time, but did you check on him at midnight? Did you flick the light on and look to see if he was in the bed at midnight when you got up to go to bed?
No, and because I didn't have any reason to. You know, when he was little, I used to check on him all the time, but he's older now and he's 15, and y'all can figure out why a mother may not want to necessarily pop into a teenage boy's room unexpectedly.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, when Seth said that when he came, that everything was in pristine condition except for his room. Like, I know that the LE was there, and he said that the LE was there. Well, I mean, what did he mean by that? Was that just like the bed was unmade, or, you know, where you looked under things, or was it like, what did he mean by that?
Sebastian's room is always a little bit messy, but even more so with all the people coming in, all the law enforcement coming in and looking through things, me looking through things, like everybody was searching everything.
So I have a question then real quick. So
Yeah.
you're asking that question, is that because there's somebody's trying to insinuate that we tried to cover something up because the house was clean? Or
No.
please understand why I'm asking that question, because whether my house is dirty or clean really doesn't matter. But okay, I'm just trying to understand this.
Okay, well, I'll explain it to you. It's because I have a son that is autistic. He's 28 now, but I know it's all different types of children on the autism spectrum, but they like stuff in order. And so I was just wondering, like, I was just trying to think back, and I'm just wondering, like, what did Seth mean by that? Like, was it just because the bed was messed up? And then I know the cop, like doing these cases and stuff, I know the cops. So, I mean, it's not like you have to be paranoid that I ask you that. It's just, I was asking that because I was thinking back on things, not only personally, but because I was just trying to make sense of, and then when Katie said, well, it was just his room's out of order and stuff, I'm just thinking, well, you know, some kids, maybe they do, you know, if they're autistic, you know, I don't know. I just asked that question. When I ask questions, I just listen. Let me just tell you this: when I ask questions, you don't have to necessarily look. I'm not the police, okay, and you don't have to worry about how I ask questions. It's just I also work for a retention center for 11 years, and it was my job to retain people and think outside the box, and that's what I do. It's a habit. So there's
Right.
that.
So me asking that question back is because you've got a lot of viewers. I'm not saying your viewers. So let's make that super clear so that viewers don't get that construed with anything. But there's so many people out there with their insinuations, and because you asked that question, it would not surprise me to see a comment, well, that's because they cleaned the house before the cops got there. Trust me, we have seen it all, heard it all. People are putting stuff out there that is completely obtuse from the truth, and it is ridiculous. That's why I asked that question.
Okay, guys. And so another contrast that I see in the Sebastian Rogers case and the Elizabeth Smart case is that we have Chris Proudfoot, right? And he's the stepdad. In the other, you know, case, we don't have a step parent. It's, you know, more of a traditional family, right? And then we have a blended family with Sebastian. And, you know, I can't help but notice, you know, the resistance from Chris. And anytime there are questions asked, of him that are of a normal fashion, because we're going to find out later that these are questions that were asked of the Smart family, right? Damn near all of them. And there was a big family involved in that case, right? And so, but we didn't have this contention, this, you know, stepfather going on and doing things like this, right? So let's just kind of move on with this interview.
So if there was an emergency, would he run out of the house like that barefoot? Or would he throw on his slippers, do you think, because they're by the front door?
Honestly, it could go either way. I know his dad said that he hasn't seen him go outside without shoes on since he was 2. But I, however, have had a different experience with Sebastian where he does go outside without his shoes on. There's been several times where he takes the trash out in his socks, and I'm like, dude, you got to put shoes on.
Yeah, yeah.
But I would say, honestly, it would just depend, I think, on the situation.
Yeah. So you have a padlock. Is that what you said earlier, that you have a padlock on the, like, I forget what they're called, but where you put the code in, a code lock?
Yeah, not a padlock.
I didn't mean a padlock. I'm sorry. The code where you put the code in.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So would he turn around if he left and actually put that code in? Do you have to put the code in to lock it back?
He locks the door behind himself every time he goes out it.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to think. Is there anybody I don't know if y'all have housekeepers or what, like, is there anybody you could think of? And I know I'm sure you gave it to the police that might have had the combination that could have come in like while you were asleep that the dogs would not be alerted to or anything like that.
The only people that would have access to my house have all been interviewed.
Okay. Oh, man. I don't know.
And not only that, but if somebody had been by the front door, punched in the code, believe it or not, no, it's not super clear, but you would have seen a shadow or a figure.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Based on, something would have been visible because one of the lights is still visible from that Ring camera from across the street.
Yeah.
That has been, like I said, every video, and I've said this through Facebook, everything in the neighborhood. I couldn't talk to you enough positive about my neighborhood because anybody had cameras voluntarily gave up hard drives, flash drives, access to clouds for them. They've let people go in and search their houses multiple times without needing a warrant or a subpoena or anything. They've just openly done it. So, that's why it's so difficult right now.
Yeah. Now they come out and I know this is part of the investigation, so you may not can answer this, but it was public because we saw them with our own eyes. So they come out about 11 times, counting the backyard where they took pictures. Okay. So did they come in and check as well the 11 times, or did they do forensics like a luminol or anything like that?
No. No. That I can answer. No, they haven't done that. We actually, Katie and I sat down at our table in our dining room, and that's basically where everything conducts itself. We sat down with them in the dining room, and I asked them flat out, I was like, what about fingerprints? Mm-hmm. Can we not take fingerprints? What can we do? Can we check this? Can we check that? And they said no, and they explained why fingerprinting would not necessarily be where they would get a hit, was ridges and things like that compromise the fingerprint.
Yeah.
And he goes, despite TV and the movies, that stuff you see is not necessarily true. I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I just, they said, think of anything. Well, we were thinking and asked them, how about this? And how about that? What about this? What about that? And we got shot down.
Yeah. So, is there or is there not a couch in front of the back door?
No, there is a couch in front of a door.
In front of a door. Okay. I was just wondering. So, so can he get out the back? Okay. So he can go.
Is there an exit out the back of the house? Yes. That's unobscured from anything. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But what I'm asking is, how did you know that he went specifically out the front door? What made you think that?
We presume that he left out the front door. We never know 100%, obviously, but we presume based off of process of elimination, going over it with law enforcement, going over the house, where things are, how things are, Sebastian's routine, and the fact that that's the door that he always uses or prefers to use, because I won't say 100% of the time he does come in with me through another door, but that's the door Sebastian prominently uses. That's the one that if he were going to sneak out of the house or leave the house for whatever reason, that's the most reasonable door that he would have left out of. Any of the others would have made noise or would
not have been locked.
Mm-hmm.
So the back door would not lock
from the outside like the front. No, you'd have to have a key.
So I'm not going to describe every door lock in our house. That's a safety thing.
Yeah, I understand that. Don't do that.
But what I can say is there's only two doors in the house that he could have gone out, where he could have locked on his own or from the outside. And the one, he wouldn't have gone out because of how much noise it makes.
Yeah.
Everybody would have, plus it would have been seen on camera. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I mean, it would have been seen on camera. So by suspicion or reasonable elimination of all these doors, it's front door.
Okay. And there was no windows unlocked or anything like that y'all can tell or could tell. I'm sure they looked at all that.
Yeah, with
Yes,
the
yeah.
screens intact and things like that.
Yeah, nothing exterior of the building of our house has been altered.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why it was like, oh, not only that, but for him to go out the window, so to speak, he would have landed in the flower bed and, barefooted. Yeah, we'd have heard something because he had landed on it and screamed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, guys, we'd have heard something. Everyone would have heard it. This is the interview where he says that. So Katie starts out here saying that Sebastian took the trash out in his socks, right? That, the fire ants happened when he was around 2 years old. And that even though Seth said that, Sebastian hasn't gone outside without his shoes on since then, she says that he has taken the trash out in his socks. And so, there's kind of a discrepancy there, right? Then Chris goes on to say that there would have been a shadow figure picked up on the Ring camera from across the street, and that the neighbors all gave access to the footage, and that there was no, sighting of Sebastian coming out the front door. He also said that he agreed that the law enforcement agents searched the house about 11 times, right? And in the first week, they said, that, yeah, really, and Nabinoch father had me laughing too. Dude, gag me. I mean, golly. But, we know that they were out there at least 10 times, and then they were out there surveying the yard. And they didn't come up with anything, right? And then Chris wants us to believe that they only use luminol and fingerprinting in the movies, and that's what Sumner County allegedly said to him, which I don't believe that at all. But he says to Smiley that luminol was not used, and neither were any type of fingerprinting were done at the scene. Katie sounds annoyed about the couch being in front of the door. She says, no, there's not a couch in front of the back door. There's a couch in front of a door. And she sounds very annoyed, which most mothers are okay to answer any of those questions because it brings them closer to finding their child. In this case, we don't see that from Katie, right? It's unfortunate. Katie says that the process of elimination is how they come to the conclusion that the front door is the door that Sebastian would have left out of, because the windows and the exterior of the building were not tampered with. There were 2 doors that he could have gone out of that he could have locked from the outside. But he said one of the doors, Chris states that one of the doors is too loud and it makes too much noise, and it also would have been seen on camera, so it couldn't have been the other door. And he also says, quote, everyone would have heard it. And Katie also says that the screens were intact. And of course, Chris also says that, nothing on the exterior of their building, of their home, had been altered, right, in any type of a way. Rogue says it's just tough if they done something bad to a child expert to be side-eyed by the universe. Right. Well, yeah, of course. And, I mean, it was unfortunate that, Elizabeth Smart's parents had to go through the ringer, right? Her family had to go through the ringer, but they were glad to do it because they knew that they didn't have anything to do with it. Thanks, Meg. And they were happy to do it because it's just going to bring them closer to finding out what happened to their Elizabeth, right? And that's all they cared about. They didn't care about what other people were thinking of them, what other people were saying of them. They just wanted to find Elizabeth, and they were going to do everything they possibly could to help find her, and bring her home. And that's what people do. Hey, Babs, good to see you. And I want to say hi to Rogue too. I agree with your guys', statements. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers what we're dealing with Chris. Rogue. Hey, James Coover, good to see you. And I agree with Trisha. You're not alone, James Coover. It's very frustrating. And, again, it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. And Bab says, James Coover, I agree 100%, and I'm done with Speculation Nation and done with the lack of Ellie in this case. It's never been solved, and it'll never be solved, in my opinion. Sebastian is deceased, and they will face their karma. Yeah, and I understand where you guys are coming from with that. I do. I really do. You know, they got their hard drives. That's a stupid thing to do. Well, and he said that they took all of that kind of stuff, you know. Sasha says, okay, can Jules come to the crawl space, Chris, because you won't let her? Why? Why not, Chris? Why not? He ran Jules off and made sure she didn't come. I agree. I agree that he did not want the dogs in the house, Sasha, and there's got to be a darn good reason why, right? Show Poodles calls BS. I agree. Show Poodles, I agree. Hey, Carla, good to see you, hon. Rogue says, if I knew what I suspect now about Tennessee Ellie, I would have never did that. I would have packed up, sent a hard drive to FBI or Seth and moved. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're saying, Rogue. I agree. And he laughs. Yeah, definite liars, liars, liars. Yeah, he laughs. Snippy KK, she doesn't like that, right? Hey Jude, she's like, there's a couch in front of a door, you know. And we saw these little like annoying outbursts from Katie in the beginning, you know. James Coover said you need to go back to where it began, and since no evidence of him leaving means that in ways he never left the house, not on his own or his choice. That is the true evidence that they have. I know. It's frustrating, and it is all BS, right? Because we see this, right? And then we also, because I pulled in some from Seth, right? When he was interviewed, and it's like crazy, you know? Napa Noach Father says ridges are what compromise the fingerprints, you asshole. Ridges are what make up your fingerprint. This guy's got to be kidding me, and he operates cranes. I know, isn't it like absolutely bonkers? Because, you know, and that's another thing that Silvers brought up the one time was like, you know, he's got to be like on his A game, right? It's like heavy machinery. And I know it's beyond me, Napa Noach Father. I don't get it. It's like, what the hell is going on? Yeah. Yeah, it's a smart ass. Totally, Robin 407. What a smart ass answer. A door. Right. Yeah. Like we're supposed to know, right? People are just asking these questions because we don't know and we want to know. We're interested in finding out and we want to know what's happened. And Katie should be happy to offer up that information to anyone to help find her son, right? Megan L says, Robin, I thought that was all well, except it was meaner. Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Meg. Yeah. Yeah. Trishy says, KK, you didn't presume. You guys insisted he stepped out the front door. Yes, because absolutely, Trishy, on Web Sleuths, he hammers it home again and again, right? He's like, the only door that is possible, and I'm trying to tell you guys, you know, like Chris goes crazy on Web Sleuths, Trisha and the insightful one, I believe her name is, you know, just going crazy on them. I'm telling you, the front door, every other door was locked, and folks, and I'm telling you this, and it's like, okay, well, and you're right. They're insisting, not presuming, right? When we presume, we're basically saying we're guessing, right? This is what I'm thinking. This is my inference, right? But no, they're not doing that. They are actually insisting. That's a great point, Trishy. And Detroit Rock City says, so if he would always take out the garbage in his socks, he probably always wore socks or something on his feet because he didn't like his feet to be barefoot. Right. Well, he didn't like to be barefoot. Right. And I agree with that, Detroit. And that was another reason, like, I remember even Jen Coffendoffer asking, what about Sebastian's socks? Are they all accounted for? Right. Because of probably statements like this. Right. And sometimes it just makes me wonder if they're just trying to lead us down a separate rabbit hole altogether, because again, we know about the fire ants. That was brought out very, very early on in the case by Seth. And then Katie tries to debunk it. This interview with Smiley happened back in March. And so of 2024. So all the way last year, yeah, he did flip. He did flip Sasha when Seth wanted to bring in Jules, Chris flipped, right? But he talks about the neighbors and how the neighbors were fine to let them search and everything, but he doesn't want them searching and where Sebastian went missing, yes, and more laughter show poodles. And then another thing too, which is really crazy to me, is that the entire time they're just basically lying their asses off and not allowing for anybody to even know where Sebastian went missing from, right? Because it wasn't until after a year that he was missing that the FBI, right, changed the remarks or in the details, right? So last seen on February 25th, 2024. And it still says in the area of Stafford Court. I would really like it to say the address where he went missing from or missing from his home at the very least. But, it took us a whole year to get that out and that correct information, Oh, yes. Have a great day, Miss Ann. We love you. Hey, Baba Rose. Thank you so much for being here, Miss Ann. I'm so glad to see you. Don't be sorry. I'm glad you were here. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, Carla, we all would have heard. Everybody would have heard. This is where he slips up in that regard too, Everybody would have heard. We would have heard. Yeah, absolutely. Sweet dreams, Anne. Well, and that's a whole nother thing too, James. And apparently it was not Sebastian, because if it was him, either flashlight subject 1 or 2, then there would have been a scent of Sebastian and there was no scent. Well, and I also think that, I can never overlook the fact that one of those light sources went back to the house. I just never will overlook that, It doesn't matter if it was taken out of the, America's Most Wanted or not. Yeah, and that is where LE failed Sebastian. I agree, Meg. I agree. LE not doing any forensics on the home failed Sebastian. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those are the things that you would expect to see, within the first couple of days, if not right away. Because we're gonna learn some interesting statistics too from this Elizabeth Smart doc, right? It's a part 1 to 2. A&E, I believe, did it. Meg says search the house, but never said he looked in the space above the garage. Right? Yeah, absolutely. And that little door that was up there too, that was in the bonus room. Yeah, and I believe that was an attic space. And I still believe that there could have been a door that went straight to the crawl space. From the Proudfoot residence. Thanks, Meg. Carla says, oh, I believe they have more than enough evidence to make an arrest. FBI, I'm sure, has ways to clean up those videos and get a tag number or a face. I agree 100%, Carla, because even though the photo that was enhanced was, pretty darn convincing in my opinion. And, I mean, check out the ones that they used for America's Most Wanted. This is one, and of course this has nothing to do with this case, but I mean, this is the one that they were showing on America's Most Wanted just like last week, right? I mean, look at those grainy photos. Those photos aren't that great, but they're still using them. And by golly, they're going to probably be evidence of some sort. And Cooper says CP also doesn't want anyone to search private property. Very true. And he said that so many times, Cooper. I bet you I could pull in at least 4 or 5 different times where he's really, uh, you know, made that position known. Absolutely. Thanks, Jen. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thanks, Trishy. Thank you so much. Thanks for hitting that like button too, you guys. I really appreciate it. Letting CP go get the go and get the camper for 17 hours was a fail too, in my opinion. Yeah, that's a great point, Robini, because I'm still not convinced that there wasn't some switching of the campers going on too. And that's another thing, you know, that is still, you know, out there and part of the case, in my opinion. Anne Brock says, I wonder if they have Sebastian hidden out somewhere, in my opinion. You know, I still think that's a possibility, Anne. You know, I think it's a slimmer chance, but I can't rule anything out completely, right? I mean, it's just part of the speculation. You know, it really is. You know, and I hate to think the worst. I do. Megan L says, I think when Sebastian's case is solved, I'm done with true crime. I've heard and seen way too much horrible things. I mean, it's just awful, isn't it? It's like day after day after day, something's happening. A little kid's getting going missing. They're getting snatched up. You know, I mean, you see, you know, the trafficking going on, and you know, all of this stuff is awful. Yeah, shouldn't allow any parents to roam. I agree. I agree, Meg. Yeah, absolutely. Town Chat Cafe says, in my opinion, I believe they want to have all the pieces of the puzzle, meaning other people all involved, before they make an arrest. And yes, Cooper, 100% true. And in my opinion, that's where they have Sebastian Rogers, if he is unalived. Yeah. I agree with that too, Town Chat Cafe. And I think they're really trying to go, you know, and find Sebastian first. And then, you know, I think they're waiting for that to happen to charge. James said, so he made sure that he stopped him in his tracks and made him out to be a liar to the CPS worker, saying that, well, you know, same old thing, Sebastian making up stories because he was punished. Yeah. Yeah, James. And I heard that part earlier, you know, again, hit him with the belt, whack, kind of got him. He goes to school and he tells his teacher. And then, you know, Katie's sitting there. He didn't hit my child with a belt. He didn't beat my kid with a belt. You know, it's like, yes, he did. Katie, come on, stop it. Quit lying, you know. Okay, guys, let's watch this next part here.
And she got up out of bed and they went into the bathroom and the closet and they go out the hallway, and we had some squeaks on the floor so you could kind of tell where they were.
Okay, guys, so Mary Catherine was the eyewitness in this case. She was there in the bedroom, you know, had just finished a story with her sister, and, you know, got up enough courage to go down the hall and tell her dad that, you know, Elizabeth had been taken. When her mother found out, she thought that maybe Mary Catherine, had a bad dream. And, you know, she was thinking, you know, she probably went in the room and was thinking, oh my goodness, you know, and when she realized Elizabeth wasn't there. You know, the brothers and the dad are all looking through the house for Elizabeth, and Mary Catherine says, you know, someone took her. I'm telling you, you know, someone took her. We're not going to find her here. She's gone. And, you know, then her mom proceeds to the window where she sees the screen is cut. So again, we see a screen is cut. The home has been, you know, tampered with in that regard, with the screen being cut. You know, Edward Jr. recalls his mother screaming, and that she was crying like he never heard her cry. He also, another brother recounts that his mom was acting like he'd never seen her act right? Now they begin to call all of their friends and family, right? All of their neighbors, and they're letting them know. Now, granted, it's 4:13 a.m. and they're frantic. They're calling everyone they possibly can, letting them know what's going on. Now, if we remember back to Yeda's interview, which I didn't get a chance to pull in here because I think it's more important what Seth has to say, but she says that, you know, most of their family members found out well after, weeks after, you know, into early March and mid-March, that Sebastian had gone missing. And so, you know, they did not notify Katie's side of the family whatsoever. The only people who were notified was Chris's side of the family, which I find that to be absolutely odd. So back to Elizabeth Smart. So 2 cops arrive, and then the neighbors start arriving, right? Because everyone's called to action. Elizabeth's missing. Everyone in the neighborhood mobilizes, and Ed calls his brother, and his brother recalls everyone in the family again getting the same call at the same time, kind of like the grapevine that we heard about with Yeda, which is typical in their family to hear these things through the grapevine. Nothing, right, for weeks in Sebastian Rogers' case, according to Yeda, on Katie's Rosenbaum side. Now, Don Bell, he was on the scene that day, and he said that the crime scene was totally contaminated, that the house should have been sealed off. And I cannot agree more with this statement, because we're going to find out what happened in Sebastian's case. The same thing. He said that he's never seen a crime scene so contaminated, but I'll have to also go back to the Springfield 3, highly contaminated crime scene. There was even messages erased from the answering machine in that case. Still, the Springfield 3 have not been found, right? A mother, a daughter, and her friend went missing in Springfield, Missouri, and they have never been found. And they are called the Springfield 3. But again, Don Bell recalls the scene being contaminated beyond all hope, is the quote. So, you know, again, just letting people traipse through like it's not a crime scene, you know, here we go. And we're going to see that happened as well in the Sebastian Rogers case. Yeah, calling all of his neighbors. Yes. The poor girl and her family, Trishy, my goodness. Can you believe it? I mean, gosh, little, you know, Mary Catherine, and then of course, Elizabeth being taken. You know, it's just crazy calling in all the neighbors, Sammy. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's what you do, right? You're not even thinking. You're just like calling people. You don't give a shit that it's like 4:15 in the morning, you know? You just don't care. You're frantic. You're like, where's my daughter? I don't know where she is. Have you seen her? You know, da 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 da. The cameras, I mean, cameras may not have been as widely used in 2002, but you know, you look at the size of their home. It was a very nice home, affluent area again. Megan L says, as Sebastian should have been sealed. I mean, it just should have been sealed. Why wasn't it? Sasha says, this is a stranger abduction. We are dealing with parents that do this quite the shift. Yeah, absolutely. It's so different, isn't it, Sasha? So we're seeing how a parent reacts when they think their child may have been kidnapped or even walked out of the home. I mean, at that point, they didn't realize, other than their eyewitness, right? But at the beginning, they didn't really know what to think of what little Mary Catherine was saying, because she was a little girl, and you know, they thought maybe she had had a nightmare and she thought she saw someone come in and take, you know, her sister. And so they didn't know what to think at first, you know, and it just kind of goes to show what a parent looks like and what parents look like when they don't know what's going on, and they're completely blindsided by their child not being in their bed, right? And I think it's a really valid comparison, especially since we've seen, you know, other cases just like this, even recently with the 2 in Nova Scotia, Lily and Jack. You know, well, how about that? Didn't seal the scene. Yeah, unbelievable, right? It's unbelievable, show poodles. You know, and then don't do luminol on top of it. Don't try to fingerprint anything. Maybe they thought because there wasn't, in this case with Elizabeth, the window screen had been cut, right? And so there's evidence right there that someone entered the home unlawfully. Show Poodle said, I generally back the blue, but they're stupid everywhere. I mean, and I do too, absolutely, Show Poodles, because I don't want the good people to get overshadowed. And I don't even want to disparage something that we can't go back to, right? Because we know the first 48 hours are so important in any case. Even the first 24 are crucial. And then, the more that we get into time, as time goes on, the worse outcome, and we see that in many, many cases. But I do back the blue as well, and I know that, in a frantic time, sometimes what the people in the situation, like, we see with Ed Smart here, I mean, he was doing everything that he could do as his wife is looking around, and they don't know what to do at the time. And his wife even says, there's no handbook for this, and we didn't know what to do or expect. And so absolutely, they were bringing people into the house that they shouldn't have been, and law enforcement should have been taping the area off with the crime scene tape and whatnot. Oh yeah, never an excuse, Sasha, ever. Yeah, never, never. Lisa B always says, I've never heard my mom cry like that. Brother of Elizabeth Smart. Yeah, absolutely, Lisa B always. It's so important to hear that, because we've never heard that even from Chris, right? I've never heard my wife scream like she did. She was, out of control. I've never seen her this way. We never hear that from Chris. And those are the things that we expect to hear from Chris, right? Is this, oh my goodness, my wife, she was distraught beyond belief. I couldn't console her. She was just a mess, and I didn't know what to do. And so I called the police. We never hear that from Chris, but we do hear in this case, quote, I've never heard my mom cry like that, end quote. And that was Edward Jr. Cooper says, I think KP did something to Sebastian, and CP and his family helped cover it up. I'm also, what about KP's friend Lori? Maybe Sebastian was still alive and CP lied to her and told her he was gone. I mean, anything's possible, and I don't think we should discount, Lori was there too in the morning. She was. That way KP wouldn't ask about Sebastian anymore. James Cooper says that would not have been fair to Sebastian, and with CP saying that CPS worker took him outside to talk to him, there was a good reason to do so, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely. It had to be so defeating for him, James, to have to come back in there, and then Chris, eat your food, and all of this. He's just a child, that's another thing that bothers me with that mess. Sammy says, and the only one neighbor across the street who happened to see Katie and asked what was going on, then the neighbors put it on the Facebook, shaking my head. Yeah, that's a big difference. Well, and we never got a story that stayed the same out of Katie either. The Smart story had stayed the same, all of their stories, even down to the littlest one, Isn't that ironic? Sasha says, and now Elizabeth Smart is working on Sebastian's case. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that she is intuitive enough to realize, right, what's going on here. I do. I believe that. She knows she was kidnapped for sure. She knows. Cooper says they had to get rid of Sebastian so CP could get his daughter. He knew if Sebastian testified that he would never have any rights left. Well, and I also just believe that I think Sebastian in general from my understanding, was looked at as a burden instead of the gift that he is. Hey, Clinton Gash, good to see you. That's where the Mississippi would lead. Sasha Johnson says, we are very blessed she's alive today. Absolutely, Sasha, thank you. Yeah, very blessed. And, you know, she's a beautiful young lady. I love that she loves fairy tales. I love fairy tales too. I think all of us, when we're innocent, that's what we believe, right? It's just sick that a disgusting old man and his nasty old wife would take her innocence the way that they did and damn them for it. And Megan L says, CP, quote, he thought they would remove me from my house, end quote. Who ended up being removed, CP. Yeah. Oh, and he was upset about it, Meg. The way that he said it was very vindictive, and, you know, like he was sore about it, you know. Absolutely. Yeah, they should have checked with all the neighbors. Yeah, I agree, Sammy. Yep. Yeah, Trishy, absolutely. A miracle. Yeah, it's a miracle, you know, because he told her horrible things. Like, he told her he was gonna, you know, unalive her. He took her at knife point. Um, Absolutely a miracle that she survived, and such a strong and brave individual to withstand what she had to, you know, endure. Show Poodle says, James Coover, myself also. I have gotten snippy in comments. I had to dial it back. Show Poodles, I feel that. And Detroit Rock City says the Ramses case was also contaminated. Terrible police work. Thank you, Detroit. The Ramses, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, they let people go all up in the house. And, you know, I mean, once that happens, it does. And I'm sure, like, even this, you know, rookie, well, I guess he was a rookie at that time. He's, you know, said that he was working the overnight shift, and that's usually when, you know, the newer people are on duty. And boy, oh boy, he's looking around like, holy crap, you know, he probably is fresh out of the academy and thinking to himself, or maybe through school, and thinking to, you know, taking into account he probably got a criminology degree, and he's probably sitting there like, what is going on here, you know? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Julie Clark, thank you for being here, says completely different. I think KP might have been using drugs, in my opinion, as well. Adam Forever 21. Yeah. You know, Sasha, that is something to consider, and I appreciate you saying that, because that is absolutely something to consider. You know, just anywhere in law enforcement, you know, they really could use, you know, more funding, I think. Sasha says, I have several friends in law enforcement, and their budgets are so bad. I don't know what's going on. Sometimes struggling for gas. It's quite shocking. Yeah, I absolutely agree. We need to treat them better. We need to pay them better for their efforts and time, and for protecting the peace, the communities. Absolutely. Thank you for that reminder, Sasha. That's so important. And Carla says, Megan L's, that says it all right there. CP is such a D. He was pissed off majorly because Sebastian was getting him removed from his home, and that's a major reason Sebastian is gone. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I heard that Detroit KP was hanging out with the neighbors, allegedly the kid, the neighbor's son, partying with them. Yeah, I heard that, which is very weird. Um, yeah, absolutely, Sasha. I have an extreme heart for all victims, but the behavior just cannot be repeated. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, you know, it's not okay for hurt people to hurt people. That's not a good excuse. Not good enough. Good night, Cooper. Thank you for being here, honey. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you're feeling better. And of course, we'll pray for you. We don't see it from KP that morning at all. No, not at all. Not even in the first interview. We don't hear those things, even accounts from Chris being like, my wife was not herself. She hasn't been herself. That's all she wants is her baby back, It's crazy. Local elections matter, absolutely, show poodles, and being running unopposed, as we saw in Sumner County, can also be an issue because you don't have the choice then, right? Then if somebody's running unopposed, then they just get the position. So it absolutely matters, most definitely. Hey, Single by Choice, thank you for hitting that like button. Thanks for being here, hun. The whole testimony is probably wrong. Yeah, absolutely, Adam, Forever 21. Oh my goodness, Carla. I'm so sorry, hon. We have a 3-year-old girl here got rhino after a cold and then meningitis. She now has no brain activity. Her parents have to decide tomorrow what they will do. Please pray. We will, Carla. Oh my goodness. Oh. Thanks, Lori. It's just so sad when the little ones suffer like that. I'm so sorry to hear that, Carla. My goodness. It just doesn't seem fair. It's not fair. Absolutely not fair. Yeah, it's been long. Fall off my white knight's tall horse. Sasha. I know. That is so serious, Oh my goodness. It always affects, the little ones or the older people. And oh my goodness. Thanks, guys, for all your prayers. Aw. Rogue, I have the same issues with electronics. Sometimes they battle me back and forth, All right, guys, let's hear what Seth had to say about that day.
But I'm not law enforcement in this case. I'm a suspect.
Right. And you have not been cleared?
No, nobody has.
If you had a list...
I think it's kind of hilarious, but,
And actually, I'm going to kind of go on a little tangent here, but just to clarify, where do you work?
I work for Davidson County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your job, or your job title?
Deputy Sheriff, and I work in the Corrections Department.
And where were you the night that Sebastian disappeared?
At work.
And you said you were at a
correction center.
And so you were at a jail.
I was in jail.
so you were in jail, and I'm sure there's probably, with it being a jail, it's a very secured area.
Oh yes, I am on camera arriving at 6 p.m. into the garage, which is a secure garage. You have to have badge access to get in or out. Mm-hmm. And then I'm leaving at like 7:30 the next morning, exiting out of the garage. When they came in on Monday, mm-hmm. that he disappeared, they trashed his room, flipped mattresses over, took sheets and blankets and stuff off of his bed, went through his stuff. And I told them when they came in, I said, listen, his room is probably a mess, just bear with it. And when they walked in, they were like, his room is cleaner than my kid's room. Well, needless to say, when they left my son's room, it was like he had been in there a week and never left. And it took me a minute just to go in and clean up my son's room. Put everything back where he had it. But he doesn't like cleaning his room. The only thing I can state at those records is that there is a statement stating that the only place he felt safe was here.
I don't want you getting yourself into a legal quagmire, so I'll let you speak about what you're comfortable speaking about, but just...
I can't really mention anything about him. Lord help me if DCS contacts my attorney one more time. I'd already told her what to do if they contact her one more time. I'm not speaking about them. I'm not giving them out to anybody.
Right.
Yeah,
and you're not doing anything to violate the confidentiality. You're happy to have those reports. At the end of the day, you now know what happened, or what is alleged to have happened, at least for whatever incidences those cover.
It's more insight. It's more insight in figuring out what was going on, because it's obvious that the communication that was given to me wasn't proper communication.
When you heard Katie indicate that there was a potential thud coming from his room with the knowledge of his head injury, how does that make you feel?
If I had heard it in my house, I'd have been in my son's room to find out what was going on. If I hear any kind of strange noise coming out of his room, wherever room he happened to be in, any room, period, I'm going to go find out what that noise is, verify, see what's going on. The fact that she would say that there was that type of noise and not go check on him, to me, is not proper parenting.
Based on your knowledge of your son's behaviors, do you believe he would have left the house in the middle of the night?
Different scenarios go through my head. For him to leave and not have his shoes, coat, take his switch or his phone, stuff that I know that he went with him if he was going to run away. No. But for him to leave without shoes or anything else on there, the situation would have to be severe enough for him not to be able to grab that stuff. So, based on the information that I know about my son and the story that is being told by his mom, for him to have left between the times of falling asleep and 6 o'clock in the morning is straight bullshit. And she knows that's how I feel about it.
Have you been involved or heard of any other incident where he disappeared or got lost in the past?
Never.
Betty,
Is there... Mm-hmm.
I will tell you that I had a private conversation initially with CP and KP, and I asked them very directly, and I know there's been some contradictions, but I asked them if it was normal for him to just walk out of the house regardless of the time of day, and they both in unison said absolutely not.
My heart is missing. Just drop him off. Tell him to go call 911. I need my son. And I want my son back. Life ain't fair, but this is bullshit.
Give him just a second, Betty.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. Life ain't fair, but this is bullshit. So Katie and Seth both in unison said no, that Sebastian was never lost or left in the past. And of course, we know, as of late, Chris said that there was an incident, but, we know that, again, is all bullshit, in my opinion. Now, with the CPS, DCS records, the only place that Sebastian felt safe was at Seth's, according to those records. And that's one thing that Seth was comfortable sharing, but he cannot violate the confidentiality that comes along with those records. They are sealed, but he said that it did give him more insight into what was going on and that there was no proper communication about the CPS with Seth. And according to Seth, he maintains that, that there wasn't proper communication. not with Katie, not with CPS, not with anyone. He was unaware. He said that Katie not checking on Sebastian, is alarming to him. He was worried about it. He found it to be concerning. He said, if he's at my house, according to Seth, he says, if he was at my house, I would check it out. If I heard a noise in any room, not just in his bedroom, but just any room, I would go and check. And I think that all of us, if we heard a noise in our house, we're going to go check and see what the noise is. I mean, it's kind of like, in the horror movies, it's like, don't go look, but you really can't help it. You go and you investigate a noise when it happens, right? So, with that being said, Seth says that, Katie not checking equals, not proper parenting in his opinion. And I would have to agree. Seth doesn't believe that Sebastian would leave without his shoes on, without a coat, without his switch, without his phone. He said that it would have to have been, a very severe situation, for a severe enough situation for him not to grab his stuff, right? And he says it's straight bullshit. And he says that, Katie's very aware of his stance on that. And this interview happened back in May. I believe I wrote it down here. Let's see. This interview happened May 30th, I believe it was. So that was when the interview took place with Bullhorn Betty and Seth here, which, at the end of the day, again, that was pretty much a year ago now, give or take a couple of weeks. So just sad, Hey, I am Two Bear. Good to see you. Hey, Angela Solitano. Good to see you. Hey, C. Taylor. It is heartbreaking, C. Taylor. Aw. Oh my gosh, I know. Hey, Jude. I feel the exact same way. Hey, Jude says, Seth absolutely breaks my heart, and anyone trashing him is straight up pathetic. I mean, absolutely, and well said. I mean, he is pleading for his son, right? Said shit right there. That's all he wants is his son. That's all he has said from the beginning, and that is a parent who is pleading. That's what it looks like, and nobody likes to see it, and it's almost like we have to applaud it because we don't see it in this case. It's absolutely crazy, yeah, it was done back in May, about a year ago now, Angela. Yeah. I don't know, Sasha. I wonder this often. Why didn't they just drop him off with Seth's? What in God's name? What are these people really doing to this child? Because it's something. Absolutely, Sasha. I agree. Carla says, gosh, my tears just started flowing when I listened to Seth. I want to throw my arms around him and hug him so tight. Oh, Carla, I know. James says, in my opinion, that thud that KP heard was exactly the very last thing she heard and seen as Sebastian fell, hitting his head, with it either being an accident and things got out of hand and she hit him or slapped him. Oh, I know, James, and it's just thinking the worst, In my opinion, CP and KP need to come clean and talk. I agree, Anne. They need to tell us, They need to tell us what's going on. They need to go to law enforcement, actually. I guess they shouldn't tell us. They should tell law enforcement. Sasha says, these people, in my opinion, were doing something weird with Sebastian, and that had to hide them. Seemed pervy to me. I don't know, but there was this vibe pervy, in my opinion. Yeah, I get that vibe as well, Sasha, especially with what we know happened in California. Aw. Carla says, we all love you, Seth. We care. We won't stop looking for Sebastian. That's right. We won't. And we won't stop comparing these stories because I think it's really important, you know? Very creepy, you know, and it's so important to kind of highlight, you know, and I don't think I do enough of highlighting Seth and his stuff, you know, and what he's said in the past. And I think that's important to re-examine as well. The Climb. Oh, I love that song. That's a good one, Rogue. That's a good one. That's true. That is so true. It's a beautiful song. I hope the refrigerator goes out after the go shot. Oh, Meg says, I feel like I held my breath the whole time Seth spoke. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. Like it's like listening to a father plead, you know, plead and beg for his son, and just more, you know, mourn his loss after how many months of not knowing what the heck's going on. You know, no good answers. I am Chew Bear says, honestly, I don't think he would make it this long without a heart attack or pain croaking from a broken heart. The stress is immense. Yeah, absolutely. I am Chew Bear. He's so strong though, you know. People are so resilient. Like it's amazing what, you know, we could go through. I think it was Maya Angelou said, you know, God only gives us as much as he thinks that we can handle, but I wish that he didn't trust me so much, is what she would say, Maya. And I'm sure we've all been down in the dumps and felt that way, you know. I hope they all lose their remotes to their TV, Sammy. That'll get them. That's funny. Angela says, I'm concerned Sebastian's case will take a back street on these YouTube streets because of the missing children in Canada. Thank you for continuing to support Seth. Of course, Angela, I think like that too in a way, but I think that there's so many people in Sebastian's army. It's so strong, you know, and I don't think Seth is going to let us forget, you know. I just don't. Sorry, guys, I messed up my screen there. Meg says, there's a huge difference in emotions and sadness with these three parents, and I say parents loosely when it comes to CP and KP. Exactly. You know, and it's crazy even just like demonstrating it here. It's amazing to me, really. You know, and we haven't even gotten into the contamination factor, you know. Oh, yes, Angela Backseat, she says, yes. I know what you mean, Angela. And thank you for being here, and thank you for saying that, you know. I agree, Show Poodles. Anyone who bashes Seth is trash and foul-mouthed, ugly, nasty, toilet-keeping trash bags of humanity, in my opinion. Okay, mods, please delete. I feel somewhat less angry. Hey, it's okay. We need to get it out at this point. And you know, as long as we say in my opinion, it's quite forgiving. Oh gosh, I just dropped my link again for StreamYard. Goodness sakes, guys. Yeah, physically too, it's amazing. Aw, thank you, Angela. Thank you so much for your super chat. Just thank you for your continued support in this case. Yes, absolutely. And you know what we're still gonna cover. I just don't want to do a lot of rumors in Lily and Jack's case, you know, because I don't want to start it out like how Sebastian's was, you know, started out. James Cooper says running away had even been his plan, because in my opinion, if Sebastian was smart enough to run away on his own, then he would have taken money and food with him. Oh, and not forgetting his shoes either. Well, that's a great point, James, because he did leave money in his bank, and he had a bank in his closet, according to Chris and Katie. You know, so it's just, you know, I agree. He would have taken it with him. No, Navy Shellback. This interview that we're reviewing is from about a year ago, last May. So, But yeah, no problem. No worries. I don't take it badly at all if you ask a question. So good to have you in here. Sammy says I have to find some way to not say what I really hope for them. Sammy. I'm just going to let Sammy and show Poodles but for me, says Meg. You guys are funny. Aw, thanks, Rogue. Thanks, Rogue. Yeah, and we just have to kind of, keep going back, kind of keep going back into it. But I wanted to pick some interviews that we haven't really reviewed very many times, because I could have pulled the first interview in, but we kind of already know that one, most of us by heart, unfortunately. So I think it's important to kind of re-examine some of these other ones, but let's go ahead. The case of the wiener box. Jude. Oh my goodness. All right, that was a good one. All right, so let's go down to this next one here.
I want you to kind of go back to the morning of February 26th when you listened to your voicemail message and you heard Chris on it. Was it Chris that was on the voicemail?
The text message.
Text message. And
I had a missed call and a text message from Christopher Proudfoot telling me to 911. So I called him.
And what was that conversation like?
Don't be angry or mad. Sebastian's missing. What are you fucking talking about? My son is missing.
Did you find the statement, don't be angry or mad, odd?
Yes and no. I mean, my son's missing. Distraught would have been a better word. Confused on why he's gone. Mad and angry now. With what I know, yeah. Mad and angry fits now. But then again, what I know now is everything that Chris knew beforehand.
Did you get immediately concerned when you got that call that there was something seriously wrong? Did you just know immediately?
I left there and I was doing well above the speed limit trying to get to Katie's house to find out what's going on.
Looking back on that call you had with Chris, does anything now seem out of the ordinary or odd?
The lack of emotion, maybe?
Interesting. When you got there, what did Katie personally tell you happened? Did you guys talk when you got to the house?
When I got there, I assessed the situation before I walked in. There was law enforcement was everywhere, in and out the doors, so on and so forth. By the time I got there, the dog people were there and the drone people were there. I was the last one to this stupid fucked up party.
What was it like when you arrived at the home outside of the craziness from law enforcement? What was the behavior of the people, Katie and other people that were there?
When I walked in, Katie said something to me and then shoved her phone in my face. There was a picture of Sebastian, the one that you see him with his optimism shirt on. Started kind of confused me on why she's shoving a picture of Sebastian in my face. I know what my son looks like.
Do you know why she did that?
No, still don't know why. I just started looking to see what I could see. Obviously, my son's not there.
How long were you there?
Turned around and I was there for a little bit, just enough to talk, to find out what was going on, to find out if they had any evidence or if anything, to hear the evidence that was being said. And then I jumped in my truck and started looking for my son.
Immediately?
Within 30 or 45 minutes. I don't like a lot of people around me to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously my son's not there. And I'm under the assumption that he just walked out. So I jumped in my truck and started looking. Driving up and down the roads, screaming for my son.
Did you stay with Chris and Katie there for several nights?
I didn't stay the night, if that's what you're asking. Hell no.
Okay, so you guys didn't sleep. Well, because I had heard rumors that you and your family stayed there, and I was going to ask you about some.
No,
You know,
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They told us not to search. All right, they told us not to be getting out and walking through the forest and shit like that, looking for Sebastian. That they didn't want one of us to go missing while we're looking for our son.
Okay, guys. So, understandably, and we kind of know that from the first 7 days, they were telling people, don't get out into the woods looking for Sebastian. They did have people who were trained that were out there looking, and they were all using the same kind of database to track the searches. Sartopo, I believe, is the name of it. So at first, Seth describes himself as not mad or angry, but distraught and confused. And he says that mad and angry fits now, in May, and Sebastian went missing February, end of February. So he said he sped over to Katie's house as fast as he could. He said the only thing that he can really recall that was odd back then, looking back on it now, would be the lack of emotion that he heard from Chris and Katie. He also said that when he arrived, there were dog people there, the drone people were there, and he said he was the last one to show up to this stupid effed up party. Katie said, Seth recalls Katie shoving her phone in his face with a picture of Sebastian, the one with his optimism t-shirt on. And he was wondering why she was doing that. It confused him, and he still doesn't know why she did that. He says he was there for a little bit to find out what was going on, and then he jumped in his truck about 30 to 45 minutes later to go look for Sebastian. He said he was screaming out the window for his son, and basically just trying to find out where he is, what had happened to him. And he knew that they didn't really want them out looking or getting themselves hurt looking. Hey, Kathy Bartholomew, good to see you. The only thing I object to that Seth does, yet none of us have to say so, is I cannot say probably most, I could find it is odd. Well, and he was at the jail, right? He has his alibi, and he took a polygraph test, and, Sasha, objection leading, Your Honor. And James says, well, that feels somewhat better getting that out, telling it how it is, in my opinion, how I've been feeling about Sebastian missing and nothing being done about it. And even remember that we was all told. I know, James, I know. And, all of our theories are going to come into play, especially at this stage in the game. And I understand. I understand the frustration. Thank you for the green hearts, Lori. Yeah, the jewelry. Yeah. And that's the thing, so the crime scene was contaminated. We have all of these people in and out of the house. Again, we're seeing this. Mama Sock's talking about her jewelry and what kind of vacations they're going to go on. The lack of emotion, the lack of urgency, the lack of concern is heavy and thick in the air, according to what Seth had said, and it's terrible. James says a while ago there was something going to happen real soon, which now has been months and months ago, and we have not seen anything except CP continuing to threaten people and creators or anyone. Yeah, that is looking for Sebastian. I understand, James. I get it, and I agree with you 100%. You know, it's so frustrating because I really thought there was momentum in the case, and you know, it just seems to continue on, you know, with the lies and all of that stuff, you know. Rogue. Good to see you, Kathy. Yeah, James says anyone who's trying to find out where Sebastian is. But of course, if you put yourself in his head, you would not want Sebastian found, because if he was, then the proof that CP would bring would come out. Yeah, I know. On its own. Yeah. Yeah, I agree, James. Yeah, really. I thought she was hysterical, from hysterical to jewelry. Interesting, Coco Loco. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Carla says they do not play innocent well at all. And from the second day I watched about Sebastian, I said CP and KP did it. It's so obvious. Yeah, absolutely, Carla. And even in the video, or even in their interview with Duchess for the Missing, the very first one that they did online, just tons of inaccuracies and, you know, just all over the place. Absolutely. Sweet dreams, Lori. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much, my friend. All right, guys, I am going to play this next clip for you.